Hello, welcome to the final week. We made it. Just want to go over the final project to give you some things to think about. First off, I had to modify the full project because I did not feel like we could complete the full project in a 4-week time period. So this project will seem a little disjointed. Um, so if we had a longer term, you might have, or you would have had to create a video and PowerPoint and things like that. You do not have to do that for this final project for the 4-week term. I will continue to improve this project, but for this first time with a 4-week class, just kind of getting a feel for what's doable and what's not. So to give you an idea, we'll just go over the parts 2 and part 3 of the final project. You seems like everyone had no problem with part 1, so we'll just move on to the final project. So let's look at the final project itself, and it says provides you with instructions. These tools or these worksheets are provided to you so that you can use those in the future. What you'll need to do is complete the information in these cells here. You'll address the question, what is already known pertaining to this. You'll write what is already known pertaining to the desired outcome, and what your students or your participants should be able to do as a result of your training. And then you'll need to identify what you need to still find out about your students. So for instance, if we had the full project, you would have looked at the VARC or the Kolb, and you might have needed to find some additional information. Again, this final project is a little bit disjointed because we just really don't have time to do the full project. So this should be self-explanatory. This is just the instructions on this sheet here. You won't fill it in here. You'll just read the instructions. So you just complete this table below based on your expertise and your knowledge. Here you identify which of these learning types you will use in your training. You can just put an X here on the worksheet that I give you, but you would put an X, and if you were going to use case studies. So we'll go over that. You wouldn't do that on this form because this is just the instructions, but basically this is just giving you some ideas of what you might use in your training. And then this is where you write your curriculum. Devote 2 or more paragraphs to each of the sections below. And do not complete number 6 because we didn't cover assessment activities in our 4-week course. So you will provide 2 or more paragraphs to each of these. In general, what knowledge and skills will be the focus of this workshop or training? And what do you want participants to learn in the training? So you'll talk about that in each of these paragraphs. So you will find that from each of these sections, when you use the template for part 3, it's been identified for you. So you will be filling out the form, part 2. You'll fill that out and you'll submit that, but you'll use the information from part 1 and part 2 to complete part 3. And it's identified here where you will find the information. So your part 3 is more like an essay, whereas your first part 1 was a worksheet. Part 2 is a worksheet. Part 3 is more written out in essay form, identified by each of the titles here. So you'll have one section identified as goals and objectives, and you'll go back to part 2 of your worksheet and pull that information in and write it in paragraph form. You'll address essential questions and desired outcome. Those are also from part 2, which we which is just above here. The only section that'll come from part 1 is the content organization. And some of the feedback I gave to some of you was that your content, when you submitted part 1, seemed very sparse, meaning that maybe you had a keyword outline, which is not enough information for me to determine whether or not that's enough content to be covered in one hour. So I might have given you some feedback like that. So when you resubmit for part 3, you can improve your score by adding additional full sentence topics in your content area. I don't know if I said that clearly, but I will keep going. All right, so hopefully that's clear. Let me now take us to the worksheet for part 2. So this is what you'll actually turn in. What I covered in just now was just the instructions, and this is where you will type in all of the information you need to want participants. I can't type and talk at the same time. You'll want participants to, whatever it is you're covering. So you'll type it there, and you'll fill in the cells here. Of course, it might take a lot of information. You might have a lot of content that you have to type here, and that's perfectly fine. The cell expels, so okay, it's late for me, and I've had a full day, so forgive me. I'm trying to get this done quickly. Okay, so type as much as you need to in the sections, and then continue to type. Of course, logistical requirements, we're not covering that, so that's not applicable. You don't have to do anything there. Again, here's where you will type in, you'll identify which of the learning types that you're going to use in your training. That's all you're going to do. If we had time, you would complete more information in your project. Again, we don't have time. And this is where you will write your curriculum here. In general, you'll type in this information. You'll just type it in there, and then you'll save it, and then you'll upload it in the proper place in Blackboard. And then so we come to the part 3, and that is basically I'm providing you with a kind of a template. You type your name, you can just leave that final project and the date, and then you'll identify your topic here, which is okay, it's late again, please forgive me, but swimming lessons, I don't know. And then you'll type in your goals and objectives. Again, you'll get that from part 2 of your worksheet, and then you'll just type in your information. Okay. Again, it's important that you keep these headers for each of the sections, and ideally, once you finish completing this, you should have some references from some of the articles that we covered. That should probably be some of your references, and also you should probably have some references based on the topics that you're covering. Let's say you are using a current work situation in the place where you work. You could use a manual. You could use that as a reference. You could use any kind of marketing materials that might be used. Whatever. It should come back. The references should come from your expertise, your research on the subject, and some of the articles referencing adult learning and the importance of analyzing the participants. So those are key things to keep in mind. Please email me if you have questions, and if I get enough questions, I'll make another video. Don't worry about, again, this this project is a little disjointed, but we just really don't have time to complete a full project. So there you go. It's late. I still have some more work to do, so I'm going to go to do that. And hopefully this answers any questions you may have. And if not, you'll email me those. All right. We will talk by Blackboard. Have a good evening.